Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing live show number 183. I am one of your hosts, Lauren Gray. We come to you each week at 11:30 Eastern on Fridays with the latest in news, techniques, tools, dialogue, therapy, whatever you'd like to call it, for hospitality when it comes to marketing. We have changed our name, and slowly we'll be changing our name, I should say. We used to refer to ourselves as, of course, This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing. But as we've expanded our conversations these near 4 years of doing this each week, we've realized that our conversation has really encompassed all of marketing. And it's not simply just what digital is doing in the space for hospitality, but rather digital is a component of marketing. And we talk about marketing in its broad strokes, as well as what's happening in sales and revenue management and operations, but primarily the impact of generating revenue for hotels, restaurants, and any other hospitality type business. And to that end, I usually am joined by this point by several, if not thousands of co-hosts. No, I have several co-hosts that tend to join me, Mr. Robert Cole being one of them, who will be joining in just a moment, where he is the curator of the keys. He's the one that comes up with the topics that we tend to start with when it comes to newsworthy items, and he shares that. Mr. Robert Cole, good morning, sir. Whoa, no audio. It's
one of these days. Oh, I was going to do it by sign language.
First word, 2 syllables. Sounds like
charades. Exactly.
I was just
one of these days. I'll actually be on the show before you go live, but maybe.
No, that's just a tease that you've been hanging out there for almost 4 years. It's never going to happen.
That's right. But I'm consistent. I like to make a grand entrance.
You do. And I was just singing your praises as you were coming on board, actually, as the curator of the keys, the master of the task, the topic of the tease, and all that good stuff. And how you curate a list. And we do, for those who may not know this or the history of the show to some degree, if you're new to listening to us, we do are in support of HSMAI. This is a active content generation for HSMAI. We do this each week. We're not bound by its rules, so we get to say nasty words from time to time and have opinionated ways that do not reflect HSMAI's opinions or sponsorships or relationships or whatever else they want to call them.
Or in some cases, even our own opinions, because we just like to argue.
We just like to argue, and sometimes just be mad at people. No,
actually, one quick aside. I really. At one point, Tim never took me up on it. I really thought I did a speaking engagement. I think it was for Milestone with Tim. It was great. We had a very good time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Kind of discussing different things. I thought it would be great to just have topics thrown at us with no preparation behind them, right? So we don't know the topics. We not only get tossed the topics in real time, but the position you have to take to defend it. Right, so a true debate, impromptu debate task, and I thought that would be a very interesting.
And you described our show how?
Exactly. that is kind of it. But we don't assign what side you have.
No, we don't. And we have been prone to change sides, and to be honest, to change sides because we get convinced otherwise. So
that's even better. Then you go, okay, now switch.
Yes. I've seen your point, and I agree with you. What? You can't agree with me because I agree with you.
Exactly. Actually, I used to do something like that on the Daily Show where they had to switch sides, which was actually...
Yeah. Oh, no, I used to, yeah. Well, being a debater back in high school and college, and so I thoroughly enjoyed the task of taking a topic and finding its merits, even if you disagreed with it, just to see if you could win the argument.
Exactly.
Which I think we just explained Ed. But to that end, I was telling people that the show is more about hospitality marketing, hence the sign change in the back a little bit.
I can't see the sign change. This Week in Hospitality Marketing.
That's the one we used at the conference. I brought it with and I put it up. It's a little. I'm going to pin it up a little bit better. Still hanging over the other sign, which was the digital marketing. And I was explaining to those that as we've done this now into our 4th year, we've noticed that our topic range. That the segmenting digital from marketing is really a moot point because digital is a component of marketing, a large point of it, but it's not the sole aspect of it. We talk about every aspect of it. So to that end,
tool.
Yes,
it's a tool.
It is a tool.
We could have This Week in Hospitality Print Marketing.
Yes, print marketing.
This week in Hospitality Postal Direct Mail Marketing.
Now, I have to say I am proud of the fact of being a trendsetter or being a participant in trend setting. Having been in podcasting
a tastemaker? Is that a self-described tastemaker?
Tastemaker for 11 years now. Well, actually more than that. Gosh, golly, 12 now. Been doing podcasts, and podcasts are finally coming to their own where they're featured on other channels about the podcast that's there. Like on TV now, they say, and such and such, such and such, and don't forget they have their weekly podcast and such and such. I'm like, man, that is so cool, because back in the day, podcast was like a pod what? Is that like a green bean? Or
well, and you now have folks like actually probably the biggest one, probably Conan O'Brien, I think, who, you know, had an hour-long TV show, which has now been reduced to 30 minutes on TBS. And he now has an hour podcast, which is actually quite entertaining. And it's good because instead of having, you know, 5 or 6 minutes to talk to a guest about whatever their publicist is telling them they have to talk about for their latest movie or whatever they're working on, they can actually talk about whatever, right? And it's a very interesting thing, and you just don't have to have the engagement where it's at this set time. I mean, again, I'm old enough, the elder statesman of this group, to remember the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson, I was there.
And yeah, I mean, back in the 60s and things like that, sometimes you could stay up late, 11:30 Pacific time. And he was on, and that was the only time you could see it. And the amazing thing is, because they didn't keep a lot of tapes of those shows, they just, you know, in some cases they recycled tapes or they destroyed them or whatever. It was never to be seen again. It was a one shot deal and gone. So very different now compared to my, you know, say one of my daughters who may watch a particular show or movie, you know, watching Friends episode for the 18th time or something like that. It's a whole different ballgame.
Very true. Very true. Now, to that end, I actually enjoyed there was several articles you put into your list this week that I thought were outstanding. One of them, I noticed there was a reference to you in particular, which striking.
Oh, really?
The Oyo. Yeah, the Oyo
I didn't
one.
Even notice that one.
No, seriously? Yeah, the Oyo one. Focus, you're there. Well, some of the topics I'd like to make sure we hit today out of the list that you gave us. And this list, by the way, is always shared with HSMAI's marketing board. So it's a well-curated list. Robert, you do an amazing job with this. The top story you put, which I do want to hit, which you had posted on social media on different aspects of it as well, is the hotel booking sites to make major changes after CMA probe.
I have a couple opinions on that.
Not really, because I didn't notice that on social that you had any aspect of opinion about that whatsoever. I do want to hit that one. I want to go and hit the hotel on the brands and product categorization you had. Hotels cut back on multi-brand strategy, which I found very interesting because one of the speakers was from Red Lion Haute Group, which I've been connected to times past. I thought that was interesting. And one that I also don't want to miss out of brands and product is can Oyo capture the unbranded hotel market in the U.S. and Europe, which is where you were quoted. So I want to make sure we hit those three. So let's tackle your top story. What do you think, huh? I want to put the link up while you do your introduction as to why Robert has an opinion about this.
Well, the CMA, which used to be called the Office of Fair Trading in the United Kingdom, came up with a good decision regarding hotels, which is a great about face from a really horrible decision that they made several years ago. I'm trying to think how many years ago. I believe my theory is that decision was so bad they had to change the name of the regulatory body from the Office of Fair Trading to the Competition and Markets Authority. But that
the witness protection program.
Yeah, that's right. And they deserved to go in the witness protection program because I was going to come kill them. That was the old. We'll talk about the old decision first. Was the elimination or the outline of rate parity, where they somewhat very mistakenly took some input from an organization whose business model was basically to take wholesale rates, which were supposed to be sold at a retail level. The whole model being, hey, if it's at whatever, a 20% commission, you could just charge $80 or 80 pounds instead of 100 pounds. And that nets out to be the same. So no harm, no foul. This particular fly-by-night would-be online travel agency wanted to take those rates and then undercut the retail prices, and then made up some story that the hotel groups were colluding with the online travel agencies to put down these small OTAs, where the reality was quite the opposite, that there is no consumer harm done by by rate parity, and B, that rate parity actually helps smaller OTAs level the playing field so they can compete against the big guys. So that's what started this whole wave of European things to really undermine rate parity, which is legal in the United States because it is a vertical price constraint. Horizontal price constraints or price fixing, those are bad, but vertical ones, if there's no consumer harm, it's a good thing.
And to be fair, because sometimes we kind of talk to ourselves more than we talk to some others in the sense, describe the difference between vertical rate and versus horizontal rate. Because some people may not understand the variance between the distinctions.
Sure. If I am, well, let's pick two hotel companies. We'll say, let's pick two big ones, Marriott and Hilton. And they don't do this, and they wouldn't do this.
They don't.
It doesn't matter. It could be two hotel owners, two large hotel brands, two OTAs. They come in and say, whoops, and Seth wants to come in and weigh in on this because this is his area. He's the expert in this particular area.
That's right.
A horizontal constraint would be price fixing, where they go, hey, you make the New York Hilton $200 a night, and we'll make the Marriott Marquis $200 a night. Okay, or $400. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
if it's a good price, if it's a bad price, if it's anything. You can't do that. That is horizontal amongst competitors. A vertical price constraint is something where you say, hey, our rate at the New York Hilton or the Marriott Marquis is $200 a night independently. And each one decides on what their price is going to be. There's nothing in terms of setting the price across, but they say, our retail price tonight is $200. We pay a 10% commission off of a retail transaction. So what will happen is you give us $200, we give you $20 back, and we net $180. And that's all fine and good. Is that good? Is my math good, Seth? He said yes.
He's fact checking.
Yes, my fact checker. So with that, that's fine. The net is $180. So let's say that's the New York Hilton. The Marriott Marquis comes in and says, hey, you know what? Instead of us having to pay you a commission back, that's a lot of paperwork, things like that. But what if our $200 rate, you're still going to charge the consumer $200, which is great because that's our price for our product. But we'll do a merchant model transaction, which is a wholesale transaction. And instead, we'll just give you the rate at $180. But hey, make sure you mark it up to $200. All good? And everybody goes, all good. That particular condition, the second one, does not harm the consumer because the hotel or the seller of a good has said, here's what my price is. And then we have a business model which figures out the compensation, but it's really kind of behind the scenes to the compensation to the intermediary, but that's behind the scenes and has really nothing to do with the consumer whatsoever. Right? So there's no consumer harm. Who controls the product sets it. And there was actually a U.S. Supreme Court case, which was Ligon's, which nobody has ever heard of, but oddly enough, my wife happens to work for some friends of hers at Brighton Collectibles. It's a little mall, and a lot of stores. They have 400, 500 stores. My wife happens to be one of their top salespeople, not corporately, just working at this particular store, but they set the original rule that said, hey, you cannot sell this Brighton jewelry at discounted rates. If you're an independent store, like, I don't know, a Hallmark store or something, or someone who might do this, you have to say, these are our prices. This is what we do. It's our product. You can sell it. Yes, you're getting it for a discount, but you can't undercut our prices in our stores. And the U.S. Supreme Court said, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, is there a consumer benefit of somebody getting a discounted price? Maybe you could argue that, but the other side is that there's a tremendous disadvantage to the producer of that good who may have someone who's completely unrelated to them getting a benefit that isn't really due to them. They might not even have an official relationship with them. So they locked that process down. The U.S. Supreme Court goes, yeah, that makes sense. Consumer isn't being harmed. So vertical price controls, as long as they don't hurt a consumer, is fine. Now, what got argued in just completely inaccurately in the case in the UK was that, let's say, well, we won't pick Marriott and Hilton. Let's pick Millennium Hotels and Resorts or something. Just went to Expedia and said, okay, Expedia, let's put the rate at $300 or £300 a night. And it's like, that is not happening, right? They are not setting that, in some sort of collusion to go do something. So it was a completely off the wall case. Totally wrong. Got shot down, fortunately, by the folks at Skyscanner. Thank you very much. The regulation authority changed their name after that. I don't think those were related, but that's the way I tell the story.
That's the story. That's the story.
Complete shame. We have being shamed by SiteScanner, or not Skyscanner.
Skyscanner. Mm-hmm.
That was a SiteMinder Skyscanner merger there between those two names, I believe.
It was a Freudian something or other.
So that's a very deep dive into the background. But they did something great this week. They came out and had a ruling which basically said there's control of 4 things that need to happen. But the first one, and the most important one, is that when you are selling a hotel room, you have to show the total price inclusive of all taxes and fees. So you have to sell it like an airline ticket or a car rental or something where you know the total price, and you do not have what is referred to as drip pricing, which is illegal in the US and as every foreign jurisdiction I'm aware of, which basically says you can't come out with a lead price and then all of a sudden somewhere down the purchase process you find out it's a lot more, which is obviously a deceptive practice. And that pretty much describes mandatory hotel resort fees or hotel fees or whatever you would like to call them.
Parking fees, facility fees.
Right, whatever those fees are.
That you want a door in your room fee.
Right. So, and here's the example that I've given, because I've been involved in this, kind of in the background for a number of years, working with some folks lobbying in Washington, which actually did wind up in 2015 getting some traction. I mean, we had a webinar with 26 state attorney generals who stayed for the entire webinar. Nobody dropped off, so it took that as a positive indication. And there was actually some movement at the Federal Trade Commission at all. That changed for some reason in 2016. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened.
What happened to 16?
Yeah, mostly because there were like 3 or 4 missing Federal Trade Commission commissioners for about 14 months, 15 months, something like that.
Things happened during those 14 few months too. Yeah.
Nothing was going through there. So now the FTC's back at fighting strength. They have been for almost a year now. So they should take this up. But well, let me give you a little quiz, Lauren.
I'm gonna fail.
I have 3 hotels. You might. 3 hotels in New York, the same dates. It was a Wednesday through a Sunday. Okay. These are the dates. It was actually dates that were taken from a couple of weeks ago, which I pulled, a couple weeks before that. So this is real, actual statistics. So 3 properties: the Hilton Garden Inn, Central Park South. All 3 are in New York City. And for a 4-night stay, the initial rate on this is, that you see advertised in a sort order off of, your favorite website anywhere, be it the brand website or an online travel agency, $169. Okay.
All right.
So just think Hilton, $169. Okay, not a bad rate. The Crowne Plaza Times Square at $147.64.
Ooh.
That's pretty good. So IHG $147, Hilton $169, IHG $147, and the Wyndham, the Trip by Wyndham Times Square South at $155. So Wyndham $155. We got Hilton at $169, IHG at $147, and Wyndham at $155. For your total price that you will pay for your stay, which one will be most expensive?
See, I know this is a trick question. Because You know, you got to add in the parking mandatory facility fee.
No parking. But this is just some of these hotels may or may not include a compulsory fee for other stuff. This means it's a fee you must pay, just like the room rate. It's not optional. You aren't getting any. You aren't asking for an additional service.
I'm going to say the cheapest ended up being the Hilton. I would say the cheapest ended up being the Hilton. The most expensive, I don't know. Could we kind of a toss up between the fees that Marriott and the Crown and stuff throw in there? I'd say the Crown was probably the most expensive.
You are very, very good at this, Mr. Gray. Very, very. Now, okay. So exactly how much is the difference? That's where I can catch.
Oh, that's a $1 million question.
Okay,
I would say probably a range of $15 to $20. I think would be at least the variance on that.
Well, and this was a 4-night stay, right? So in this particular case, the Hilton Garden Inn had your base rate for 4 nights would be $676, which is great. You have taxes, $113.78, and no resort fee. So your total, you're going to pay $789 for 4 nights, which works out to a per night rate inclusive of $197. Okay, actually $197.45. The resort fee is 0% of the rate, right? There is no resort fee. The most expensive one, the Crown Times Square, your base rate's $617, which is really $60 less, right? So on your initial look, it looks like, hey, I'm going to pay $60 less. You have a little bit less in taxes, but the resort fee is $137.72. So your actual that you are paying is $859 instead of $789. So you're paying $60 more. You have a $120 swing. That is 22% of your total what you're expected to pay.
I've had contention.
22% is not a rounding error for a consumer who has no visibility. And here's why it's called drip pricing and why it is illegal and should be called out. There is no way for that consumer to know at the beginning, seeing those rates, what's the total price. And the argument is, well, we're giving you other stuff that you don't know about, is just ridiculous, because you could say that with any hotel room. Well, is it a corner room? Is it a high floor? Are you looking at?
We give you access to the fitness room. Are you looking at? When you already give me access to that?
Is breakfast included? All of that is already baked into hotel rates. All of these are always different, but the price is something that needs to be fixed. And if you can't comparison price, because you have to drill down a couple of layers into the search process to go, oh, they've added some stuff here. And again, the OTAs have famously added taxes and fees together into one line item, which can in many cases bury sometimes a very considerable fee that they're adding on top of whatever they're getting as a commission or a merchant rate. They can pad some stuff into there to get to the total. It's not legal. Drip pricing is not legal and should not be tolerated for hotels.
Well, and then also too is that I've actually argued with hotels that try to tax me for their fees.
Oh, they do. Well, no, and they have to, because now, not in New York City, because New York City local authorities were either cowed by the hotel association or just idiots, and I'd be happy to tell them to their face, they do not charge those hotel fees room occupancy tax. Now, most other jurisdictions do, because it's a mandatory fee. There's no reason why wouldn't, if you want to avoid your hotel room occupancy tax, why don't you charge your room rate of $1 a night and $199 of mandatory fees? You don't pay any, you don't have tax exposure in that situation. Why, that's obviously a ridiculous scenario. So why would that be a possibility, right?
I think the logic of that was originally because or at least probably a contributor just thinking common sense wise, is that New York has one of the highest bed taxes anywhere. So they probably figure they're already bleeding the beast already. So the logic Why not charge $1 rate and $99 or $199?
To avoid well, two things, and actually, and you can, in fairness to the hotel owners who want to reduce their burden, right, of paying either tax jurisdictions or intermediaries, because this can also artificially lower your rate, right, or lower your commission to the intermediary. If you charge a $1 rate, not that you do that. Oh, and if you owe 15% to the OTA, well, that's there. Here's your 15 cents for the one night stay. Oh yes, and we have this hotel fee that you don't get a piece of, right? So there are reasons that this was done. It's profitable for the hotel owner. The problem is it's drip pricing. It's horrible for the consumer and for everyone who fights in hotel marketing to try to improve conversion and understanding and next generation retailing of eliminating friction, right, in the sales process. Well, this pretty much flies right in the face of that. And if it becomes too hard and people feel that they're getting ripped off, you're going to have lower review scores. They're going to be unhappy. You sent them through a gauntlet. Just tell them the damn price. Market your hotel based on your benefits and your differentiators and how much better you are at the competition for whatever persona you're targeting, and get on with your life and be a good marketer, as opposed to trying to kind of monkey around with the pricing and fundamentally trick some people into paying more than they have to. And again, the argument is, well, it's disclosed, because that's what the FTC did in the first round, I think 2012. They sent a nasty gram to all the major hotel companies going, you can't do this, because at that point they weren't disclosing it. Well, now they have a little disclosure that there's a little asterisk and it says, oh yeah, there's a fee and it may be such and such, excludes $33 or something like that. But it's not calculated into any totals until you kind of get into a shopping cart aspect.
I'm trying to understand Bob's question. Bob Pye's with us. Hi, Bob. Sorry I didn't just call you back earlier this week. It's been a crazy week for me.
Lauren's like that. Bob, don't take it personally. He's just really horrible and inconsiderate like that. But
yeah, I'm pretty callous about it. No, I try not to be. Does any hotel charge independently for mobile phone access or internet access? Well,
sure.
Internet access, yes, of course.
Yes.
I mean, they do.
Yeah, and again, the play on the internet. Yeah, the play on the internet access, which again always gets lumped into these mandatory fees, is yes, you're getting free internet. Like, no, it's not. You can't call it free internet if you are charging me a fee for it. It's in the fee. You are charging me for internet access, right? So you shouldn't be able to do that either. But yeah, and most of the major hotel groups now will waive the internet access charges, which are hated probably as much, if not more, than resort fees, because all the research on these resort fees is that consumers hate them, right?
Yes.
I mean, they're nonsensical. But yeah, they'll say, hey, if you join our loyalty program with zero cost, you get free internet access. Because
I often feel like as an industry, we got greedy with the resort fee. Remember the gas fees? Remember when we heard high skyrocketing fees and we had fuel?
Oh, fuel for airlines.
Yeah,
and airlines cheated with that, because they said, hey, fuel prices are going up, so instead of raising their airfares, they added on a fuel surcharge. Well, guess what? When fuel prices went from jet fuel went from $100 a barrel down to 50 or something like that, a lot of these guys just kept it in there.
Yeah,
it didn't have anything to do with anything. They just wanted a way to say,
well,
this is an artificially low lead price that will lure people in, and then we'll give them the actual price later, and that's welcome to drip pricing, because again, it's a mandatory fee, right? So.
Right. Well, again, it goes to the aspect that hotels were doing it for gas. They were trying to do their own gas surcharges and other stuff like this.
Oh, absolutely.
But the idea of this additive cost, I kind of equate it to restaurateurs having early bird specials, where once you get hooked into that routine of having to offer 2 for 1 or whatever early bird discount you're creating, you can't get out of that hole, because as soon as you do, you get pushback from the audience that it generated, where it's absolutely. Like, I can't believe you took that away. That's why I come here, so forth and so on, because their perception of value was diminished. If we could stop the wheel for just a moment and say, guys, instead of our rate offer of 119, it's really 169 because at 119 we had resort fees and we want to charge you for the door and your room fee and everything else. And with tax and everything, it came to 169. So let's just say it's 169, but please don't kill us by going to our competitor who still isn't going to be truthful with you. If we could stop the whole wheel,
right. Well,
we would be good, but we can't.
And that is a huge impact. Absolutely. This practice penalizes those who don't do it. The ones who are behaving properly get disadvantaged because they are artificially, when you sort that OTA list into ascending price order, it's not taking the resort fee or these mandatory fees into consideration. Now, those who also argue, oh, it's too complicated to keep track of. This was the same one for the local sales tax that the OTAs famously go, oh my God, that's too hard to calculate, right? You go, really? You have some pretty sophisticated, so your algorithms that are determining your sort order you can't handle basic arithmetic functions. So maybe you should just be out of business if you're making that argument, because you can't keep track of basic counting here. But it's the same sort of thing. It's not too complicated.
Convenient time says, I can't recall that. I can't really. You can recall why you don't agree with it, but you can't recall why you would be disagreed with.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, with this, good for the CMA and not bad. Oh, and maybe we should cover the other 4 items that they said had to be covered, because I think there are going to be some interesting things on those. Let me go grab the thing so I'm not. Oops. Let me open the link
for.
Well, basically, there were 4 things that they outlawed, right? So the big one, which from my point is that this is easy for these hotels to really it's easy for the hotels to understand. It's easy for the UK to monitor. So this is really going to be something that this has teeth on the total pricing. You can tell if people are cheating. And again, when I was in the rental car industry for a year back, I think it was 1999, I participated in a conference call. I mentioned the 26 state attorney generals who were interested in this hotel topic. I participated in a conference call with 49 state attorney generals telling the rental car industry, you need a total price, because the rental car industry had gone nuts, right? I mean, just absolutely $15 rate, 4-day rental, and you're like, why am I paying $150? This makes, how do those numbers work? And the state attorney generals came in and said, hey guys, this is a bad practice, and you can change it, or we'll make you change it. Your choice. And the rental car companies went, they have a point. Let's avoid that pain, shall we? So anyway, there were 4 things that they basically said you can't do. Oh, Seth is going to come in and fact check me on these, so that's fine. The first one was the hidden charges. The second one was discount claims, which are kind of these extraneous. Oh, you're saving 57%, which in some cases strike through pricing, and I'm happy to call out particular players of this. TripAdvisor will go out and they will find someone, they'll scan all their rates and they'll go, why does XYZ distributor have a $212 rate where everyone else is at $157? So what they do is a strike through on the 212, and then the best available rate was $157, and that's not really a discount. That's just an outlier where somebody either made a mistake or just has crappy rates for that hotel, or who knows why, right? That's not really a discount. Or Hotwire. Hotwire changed some of their comparison pricing to say, here's a strike-through price, but the comparison price, the base that they're using, is a bundle of competitive hotels who would be pricing something like that, which may not even be over those particular dates of the stay. It could be weekends versus weekdays. Nobody really knows how to do it. It's not a real price. A discount is, this hotel was charging, $199. It's now at $179. That's an X% discount.
Do you think that
that's how math works, right?
Do you feel that the live dynamic ads that are being grown by Google more effectively, and which already Facebook has, is going to counter some of the current practices like this? Like, okay, with dynamic ads, Facebook, dynamic ads for travel for Facebook, or the live ads, the dynamic ads for Google, they can pull in real inventory in real time at real rates, and it reflects real inventory at those dates for those rates at that time as legitimate. Because so many people used to the static ads that say rates starting at 119, and you get there, and maybe for legitimacy they had one room at one date that had that rate, just to say that it is a context. But that room, that date are long gone, if ever discoverable, and you're left with whatever is the rates.
And that practice was outlawed for airlines, right, in the U.S. and I believe internationally. The CMA and the CAA in the UK both have very, very strict rules on airlines, as does the U.S. Yeah, you can't say we have a $50 round trip when you had one seat available and it was sold 3 hours ago, right? It's not available. That was Federal Trade Commission and who was it? The Civil Aeronautics Authority, one of the regulatory bodies for the don't think it was the FAA, one of those groups came in and said, no, can't do that. That's hostile to consumers. You're cheating people, you're telling them, so you're lying to them fundamentally.
I want to hit this article. I want to get this one about
hang on. We need to cover the other areas though that they can't do. Just very quickly, okay?
Okay.
Okay, sorry. I know. I go down rabbit holes, and you're trying to get me out. You're pulling on my feet out of the rabbit hole.
We're in another galaxy now.
But this is really important. This is really important to the hotel industry. So the discount claims now have to be accurate discounts. That is going to be very difficult for the CMA to monitor, right? Because what is that basis? And you should be able to say, hey, if Expedia's struck some deal where it's $20 off and they want to say save $20 a night or minus 20, X%, great, save 10%. You should be able to do that. But to find someone who's cheating is going to be really, really hard. And my argument is the CMA is going to need better technology than any of these travel sellers have, which is not going to be the case, right? They're going to be outgunned on enforcing this one. That they aren't going to get many convictions. Another one is pressure selling, which is giving the false impression of availability. So only one room left, 30 people looking at this hotel right now. Well, yeah, 30 people may be looking at that hotel because the Super Bowl location was just announced or something. Who knows what's going on? It's not over the dates that are relevant to what you're looking at, right? It's completely out of context. So those practices have to be eliminated, especially the one room left, which may be one room in that rate bucket, maybe not the hotel, maybe it's only that travel seller's allocation or something like that. Those sorts of things are saying, get rid of the pressure selling. Again, going to be very, very difficult for the CMA to figure that out. They may be able to. That may be a little bit easier than the discounts, but that still can be tricky, again, because this is so dynamic. And then the really, really big one, which I don't think they're going to be able to figure out at all, is search results, which is making it clearer how this is really, and this is from the UK government, in quotes, search results, making it clearer how the hotels are ranked after the customer has entered their search requirements. For example, telling people when the search results have been affected by the amount of commission a hotel pays the site. How does that work? Right? Because everyone knows all the OTAs have a sort order, just like Google, right? Google wants to know, people want to have the best website at the top of the list, which is fine. Well, in the sort order, theoretically, when they say preferred picks or best bets or whatever they call it, they create a sort order. a lot of that has to do with what's the hotel rate versus the quality of the hotel, or the hotel class. Is it 4-star, 5-star? What are the review scores? Is it an 8? Is it a 10? Is it a 2? Whatever that may be. Those are all factored in. What's the location? What's the general demand? And theoretically, that should be who goes to the top of the list should have the highest probability of selling because it's the best deal. One of those factors is how much is that OTA getting paid. So if the South Strip Travel Lodge in Las Vegas decides to give somebody a 50% commission, should they be at the top of the list? I don't know. That's maybe, if they're charging $300 a night, maybe they shouldn't be at the top of the list. But I have no idea how the CMA is going to govern the inner workings of a proprietary algorithm that is factoring in and basically in many cases breaking ties, going, hey, they're giving us a better commission. These are comparable hotels. We should sell this one first because it's better for us. It's not harming the consumer. Let's go. I don't know. And I know the CMA is trying to get to this consumer harm of saying this is a better bet because it's better for us, not for you. I have no idea how they legislate that. That's very, very complicated. So I will get down from my soapbox.
Yes,
but
you have a megaphone. Even it's like, look, it's on top of the mountain on a soapbox on top of a mountain with a megaphone.
Yes, this is very, very important stuff for protecting consumers and having a level. This is how. It's going way back around to that whole rabbit hole of the original rate parity. These rules level the playing field for new, honest disruptors, right? Who want to come in and do a better job and provide better value to the consumers. If everyone's playing by rules that are good and fair, then these new guys can come in. If other ones are doing things that are bad, that's not good. So
I think in comparison to a small group of people trying to mitigate a large organization, I think a large group of people mitigating a large organization is better. And to that, I mean, to answer your question, I think the public's engagement will weed out those that are not in their algorithmic way providing the most balanced or truthful presentation. Because at the end of the day, it's still business. At the end of the day, the transaction occurring on that site is the monetization model that they have. And if they begin to get discovered by the users that they're biased as to their presentations, they're inaccurate as to who should be featured versus not because of their own self-interest in the value proposition, and they begin to do enough case studies and they're attacked enough times and jabbed enough times, they're going to be like, you know what, it just isn't worth it to make that as a moderation in our algorithm to feature a property we have a better relationship with, because we get caught and we get beaten and we get
But I
caught.
don't think they get caught because the CMA they don't have any visibility into the commissions that hotel is paying over those dates.
But I think
to skew the.
I'm a firm believer that if you sit by the river long enough, the body of your enemy will float by. I think in time, maybe not at first. I'll take the Gandhi method. No matter how big and how insurmountable the enemy may be, he is not indestructibly and he's not infinite, and he will go over and eventually collapse.
Lauren, if you wrap the body in chicken wire and weight that bundle down, the fish will eat it, the body won't float.
You will still see it.
Come on, there's a way. No, it'll be down there at the bottom. That's how you do it. Come on. Yeah. You've been around.
So I want to get to my second talk because I love this conversation about multi-brand stage, because we have been bashing the crap out of brands' flavor of the day branding that they've been attempting to do. And this, for the first time, was to me the first objective with people at the level that make this decision. Conversation about, it just at the end of the day isn't worth it to call 15 flavors of blue.
So
what?
Please,
Robert White, what's our Robert White? What?
No, you have your. I had my soapbox. Please ascend. No. I'm passing you the soapbox. Please ascend and
soapbox microphone and no. Basically, and you'll see the article in the link, folks. Hotels cut back on multi-brand strategy. This is the American Lodging Investment Summit. This is a pretty heavy-hitting group. I mean, you got to admit that this is not a bad group that they got on stage together.
Yeah. No, Melon from HVS, who's kind of the leader in figuring out hotel valuations, was moderating.
Yep.
Michael George President, CEO of Crescent Hotels and Resorts. Ken Green, President of the Americas for Radisson. Greg Mount, who's CEO of Red Lion.
Yeah, and now I know Red Lion a little bit more intimately than the others in the sense of their current on progress as to what they've been strategizing to do. But Red Lion was the one that was featured as to the reduction in brand variations, which I thought was interesting because I know the discussion is a little bit in some of the process of it, of what they were trying to do.
Right.
And it basically, I mean, we were looking at the fact that brands we have criticized, I've criticized, all of us as co-hosts, for those who are not with us. By the way, what's with Ed and Stuart and Holly and Tim?
My understanding is they are all incarcerated.
Oh,
that's what I heard.
Again?
People are saying again. Yes, I can't say why. It's only conjecture. It's only rumor. Well, right?
There is some states that third time's the charm for them. They could get into some serious trouble in some of the states they live in. That third time's the charm. I mean, in some cases, this is the 6th or 7th time for them. So
exactly,
it could be that they're going to be broadcasting from San Quentin or something. Anyway, so branding. The idea of it was, and we've complained about it, is that they keep thinking they're going after generational or demographic flavor variations. They lost track of the financial tiering associated with here's our luxury, here's our quality, upper, not luxury expensive, but nice. Here's our long-term stay, moderate cost, and then here's our economy. You just need a place to crash the night.
Or maybe just brands that make sense to the consumer.
Yes.
And you look at it and go, I get it.
Like Bowie, that's easily Bowie is such a one that makes sense to me. I'm going to remember it forever. I will always be a Bowie fan for Marriott, or is it Bowie? Bowie? I know.
Bonvoy.
I'm going to be a loyal Bowie boy.
Wait, you mean Bonvoy? That's their loyalty.
That's it.
I'm sorry. I thought they had started a David Bowie hotel brand.
Well, I thought so. I did too. And boy,
welcome to the Iggy Stardust suite. Here's your thin white Duke Deluxe King.
Yeah. So I mean, I was such a fan of that.
Now somebody's going to do that. And it's going to be a chain. I apologize.
Someplace in Nevada. Someplace in Nevada. Someone's going to do the Iggy Stardust.
Anyway. A Beatle-themed hotel where each room is a basic album or something. Yeah, album. You're in the Rubber Soul room. Oh, you're in the White Album room.
See, I would go with each room being a different Beatle. Like this is the Paul McCartney room.
Oh, yeah. See, that's why you're a hospitality marketer, Lauren. The quality of those ideas and
they're just gold. They're just gold.
Unfortunately, at some major hotel groups and development companies, unfortunately, they're having conversations like that.
That's the truth. But anyway, so this article, they opened up the discussion of the fact that by minimization of brand variation and going back to guest requirements as to the condition for a product to be put to market is a strategic change in their minds. That is what needs to be done. That this flavorization of brands has gotten too extreme, too variant. It's lost its impact value of saying, "Oh, I'm a loyal." What is it? Bonvoy,
like Bon Voyage. Bon Voyage.
Yes, Bon Voyage. Yes, Bonvoy. Because nothing says to me like Lauren Gray, the Traveler, than Bonvoy. So
I'm not a big fan of the name. It'll be fine. It's the name of the program. Everyone will get used to it. Could there have been a better one? Maybe. But you know what? Their lawyers probably figured out we can trademark that. Nobody's used that combination of letters before.
Yeah, there's a few other terms that you can
rationalize
for good reason.
Right, and we've rationalized the relationship to travel through Bon Voyage. Bon means good, and voy means go in different languages. So, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so they rationalize those down, and so you can see how they came up with it.
The statute of limitations on the Bates Hotel name might have also run out, so they could go do a whole series of that. The Bates Hotel collection. Why not? I mean,
that's actually one quick aside for everyone with their bingo card, because I'm required contractually to mention Four Seasons in every one of our broadcasts. My going away gift from the Four Seasons corporate office was basically Anthony. Perkins standing outside the house. It's kind of a black and white thing from, I think it was a image from Psycho 3 or something. So he's standing outside of the creepy house above the motel and everything like that. And what did they do? They put a Four Seasons logo up in the corner, and it said, every hotel should be a home away from home, or something like that.
Hey,
and it was great. It was a great
Bob, a little bit back to the earlier conversation.
Let's make a mobile web service that any hotel attendee can visit to add a database comparison model to give the hotel guest a better view of pricing value in real time. I'm working on it. So, the HTNG and Open Travel folks have now started again discussing a unique hotel identifier. And if my hypothesis is, if you can identify for control of the owner of that lodging asset, right, which could be, hi, I own the Marriott Marquis and I've got a run of house room and I don't care what, and I've got one identifier for everything, that's great. Or if this is a fractional ownership, 52 owners of every individual room over God knows when, that's fine. We can identify who owns whatever fraction of the room, and then they could say, my stuff is over there. Go look there for my real-time rates. Go look there for my content or my images. That's where the fact-based stuff is. If the hotel industry can accomplish that, especially globally, everything changes. Because Google loves it, the OTAs like it, the hotel brands like it, the owners have control, and all of a sudden you wind up with the capability to have an open marketplace where there is a level playing field. And again, let the best marketer win. I think that's a great scenario. So Bob, yes, I have a dream, and we'll see what happens with it. So there may be traction on it this time. I think a lot of the one particular obstacle has now disappeared, which is great, and we'll see what happens. And we've got a lot of very smart people working on it. Got some smart people looking at it. So
definition of insanity, right?
Oh, well, Lauren, I think you're a little bit like this. My approach is if you beat your head against the brick wall, eventually you'll break through.
Eventually it's going to break through. You and I are exactly like this. You know what? It just takes tenacity over, but persistence over resistance. That's what
as the father of this initiative, I included this particular field in, I believe, 1997. So it's only been 22 years, but we'll get there. So anyway.
Well, Robert, it looks like you have to speak with Bob because he's the man that does it. And I can tell you I've spoken with Bob before, and he's a very talented individual. So if you have that, he is an expert in that field.
Well, this is actually to establish, just like when I was way back when on the Open Travel Alliance Interoperability Committee, the key was to develop the standards and then let people use those standards, right? So everybody could agree, here's how we message stuff back and forth and the messages that you need to make a reservation and confirm it. And once that got, kind of nailed down and translated into XML, where it was like, hey, anybody can kind of do this. This is great. Yes, everything changed, right? And so this is, I think, a similar sort of it's just like the internet. If you don't have a DNS where you go, yes, I type in this website name, but it's attaching to an IP address. If you didn't have that IP, how do IP addresses work and that stuff get found, the internet would not be quite as good as it is. So that's what the hotel industry needs, a little bit of standardization on just who owns this stuff, where is it, where's the right version of it, what's the right price, and what do you know? And actually, Lauren, your thing with the CMA figuring out some of these things for markups, you do this, you could all of a sudden and this might be a negative to some people, yes, taxation authorities and governing jurisdictions can figure out if you're doing your math right and sorting these properly. So
I want to take this next one, which is kind of near and dear to both of our hearts for different reasons. One, because you were quoted in it. Two, because I know the people that are engaged with this, and that is the OYO conversation. Because for a while, most people, I'd actually say if we were to ask openly, anybody know about OYO?
Yeah,
I think we would get a lot of people that have like as in yogurt.
Yeah, OYO is a force to be reckoned with.
It is
in India, because what they have OYO homes, OYO living, OYO rooms, Silver Key, Palette. They have all these other brands. Oyo Townhouse, right?
If I could lay the track down on one thing, and this is to me one of the key elements to Oyo's threat value, okay, out of this, is they come not saying, oh, I have to use this system over here and this over here, and we have to use this, we have to blend this. And the U.S. struggles, the ecosystem of hospitality and North America in particular struggles with tech stack configurations and connectabilities and usabilities.
Absolutely.
Oyo's walking in the doors and decentralization, commoditization, and the ability to go over and influence individual markets from a centralized place. They struggle with that because centralization is difficult for them. Absolutely. Because they don't know how to tailor what they're doing in individual markets.
And you have owners, management companies, and brands all having completely different business models, completely different tech requirements that should be benefiting the hotel owner to sell it, but it's not. And
right.
Yeah, that chaos
because everybody has their hands in the pile.
And a technology industry, right? The hospitality technology industry, which was based on proprietary lock-in business strategies, right?
See,
once we get them on our PMS, they can't leave, right?
Right. So everybody in our current ecosystem has their hand in the pot. They want their piece of what they're contributing and participating in. Oyo comes in with their own stack. See, the thing is, our current ecosystem has that everybody is out for their benefit, their monetization model. Platform usage, PMS systems, CRM systems, all these systems are out for monetization of providing the service.
Right.
And as such, you're dying from a death of 1,000 cuts. Most hotel operators are dying from a death of 1,000 cuts. Oyo's model is, look, one, we centralize. We come in and we are going to upgrade your revenues massively because everything we built is about generating revenue for that property, period. Yep. It's everything about it is one tech stack that's built by them, operated by them, controlled and managed and revenue generated by them. So everything is about generating the revenue through a single clean funnel.
Right.
And they're not out to do death of 1,000 cuts. It's like, here's what we do. This is what's being charged. And this is what you get. Done. Right. And so they can come in and be a very big disruptor because if and when they get their foothold in a particular market, as to what you're pointing out, there's a whole outer ring, another outer ring, another outer ring of additional service profiles that can be brought into play that can go anywhere from food delivery service to transportation services to microfinancing services for smaller businesses to be built around the property itself. They can handle every constructed avenue, and they're doing their second round of public funding just went through, right? Was it second public? Yeah,
well, they've got a lot of money from SoftBank,
lots of money.
And their whole thing is now the question is right now they aren't necessarily profitable, but they have been expanding. They've been around for 5 years. They have 18,000 properties already in 500 cities, across mostly in India, but they've gone into China, Southeast Asia. Yeah.
So, you look at them and the model that they can bring into, and they just brought on a lot of people in the European market that are Airbnb based.
Right.
And OTA.
Right. And in the US they have Calvin Anderson from Red Lion.
Calvin Anderson just got picked up for Dallas. He just got pulled from Red Lion.
Right.
And
exactly. And they're looking, and the guy who's heading it actually did a non-travel related startup, right? He did a kind of a food delivery startup. Fellow Marcus Higgins was in Madison, Wisconsin. So yeah, it was called Eat
thinking
Street.
Very untraditionally as to the hotel model, saying let's get out of the ecosystem.
Yeah. So what they're doing, they're calling themselves like a full stack platform. They focus on two things, which is number one, the technology, and number two, the operations. They want operational efficiency. They have standards. Here's how you run these places to make sure it's professional. Then the marketing side is kind of left to the individual, the individual group and things like that, right? So they don't necessarily lock you into everything, but they can then manage us, help. And Calvin's obviously there to help people with revenue management, things like that. So they can do a lot of stuff with a very disparate, non-standardized product. It's interesting. Some people don't think that they'll be successful in the U.S. And the arguments are very interesting. They'll say, no, Europe's better because Europe's more fragmented. There aren't as many brands. But in the U.S., 30% of the hotel rooms properties are not associated with brands. That's a lot of hotels.
Let's look at our earlier conversations. Consumers. I mean, Oyo's coming into almost a perfect storm. to their benefit, where you have consumer sentiment for our industry at a low because they don't trust our rates and prices because of what we just talked about having inefficiencies of resort fees and drip pricing and so forth that we have, and the OTAs are doing their own scamming as to what prices they're making available to entice you to book through them when you never can find the price afterwards. We have consumer sentiment scores that are absolutely freaking brutal about this. We have a dissolution of brand integrity, brand identity, brand apathy that people don't know. They don't care that they're going to stay at a Bonvoy or a Bon Voyage. I mean,
that's only the loyalty program. That is not a hotel brand. It's okay.
But in the sense that they're going to look for and seek out that hotel at their destination above all else is gone. That's mythical used to be's.
Right.
That doesn't exist anymore. Now, I will look at Marriott first, or a Hilton first, or a Hyatt first to see what's there, but then I'll compare them against what's in the market and against the destination I'm hitting.
And generally what I'll do, I mean, and here's how I sort right now, right? I will go out and I'll say, I want this neighborhood. So, whatever that may be. It may be finite, it may be a whole city, it may be a specific, whatever it is, some sort of geographic. I want this geographic region. I want 4- and 5-star hotels. I want a customer review score, if it's a 10-point scale, of a minimum of 8. And I would like it sorted into ascending price order. And if it's a total price, that's a pretty good list for me to figure out, hey, am I getting a pretty decent quality hotel in of a class which has pretty good reviews that, wow, look at the lowest price one at the top of the list in this neighborhood. That's a good starting point, right? And I think if you can do that, now here's the problem. I can't save that sort order at any OTA. Many of the hotel groups, yes, you may be able to sort by price, but try to sort by review score. It's not available.
And then this is something I know about
Calvin.
That's
not good. Right?
I also know about some of Calvin's revenue strategies that he's had in historical terms and how he thinks methodologically as to how he approaches them. Simplicity of revenue of rate opportunities are best, because how many times do you go to a website for a direct channel or whether you go to OTA and then you get cascading variations of promotions and value propositions and room variations based on each one of them. And literally you're having to manually sort through your price variations based on room selectivity and offer opportunity that you qualify for. You have your AAAs, your AARPs, your military. I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this, I'm a that. And then all the room variations to each one of them as to which is what. Do I need 2 doubles? Do I need a king? Do I even really care? Oreo in their simplicity pattern is going to, and I think this is to the traveler in mind, I'm going to point C from point A, and I have to stay in point B in the interim. Okay, what's conveniently located, nicely priced, and quality confirmed. Boom. That's Oyo.
Right. Yeah. And again, if you have the transparency of here, and then people will say, well, and a lot of these Oyo properties are dirt cheap in India. I mean, just incredibly inexpensive. But what's their secret? Are they that great? No, they aren't. It's not a quality 4 or 5-star hotel. It's barely a 1-star hotel. But you can look at it and go, oh, it's run efficiently, though. I mean, that's one thing that's like, hey, if these things can run efficiently, maybe they can put more money back into repairs and maintenance and quality of goods and upgrade things and make it better. Or they're just trying to hit a price point which disenfranchised a huge number of people from being able to stay at the property. And so, if it's not the world's greatest property, but it's clean and the proprietor is friendly, that's okay. That's great. Get a new price point, get more people traveling. That should be what the industry is focused on.
And again, going back to depending upon the market that they're positioning themselves into and the value proposition that it represents to them, picture putting themselves down in Miami or New York or Chicago or any major metro DMA and so forth, and they have large inventory that's in well-located positioning, and now all of a sudden, instead of having to negotiate and work with transportation platforms, they introduce their own. They have their own transportation platform. And when it comes to, rather than putting food services in place, maybe they create a food delivery service in place for their product that is exclusive to them. They allow nothing else to it. And maybe also, in addition to that, they create micro loan capabilities for small businesses to encircle their property that may need funding to go over and support that with a guaranteed relationship value to the hotel for that.
Absolutely.
You know, you're talking about creating an ecosystem, a burgeoning bubble around these placements that they have. And then, wow, start talking about networking within the market. Now you have neighborhood regionality saying, well, we've established ourselves here in Dallas, Texas, in Irving. Yep. Okay, now let's go over and go to Arlington. Now let's go over and go to Allen. Let's now go to Plano. And now with that connectivity, we'll provide travel, we'll provide food, we'll provide accommodations, we'll provide internet, and all through a singular tech stack that owes to nobody and doesn't bleed the property's operational efficiency down by a death of 1,000 cuts. It's a powerful model when you look at it.
Now, you wind up paying OYO a hefty fee. They're taking like 20%. Oh, yeah. But you also have to look at that. You're in control of your distribution, that sort of thing. They aren't playing a lot of weird games. And it's very similar to kind of the approach that Airbnb has, right? I mean, again, they've kind of locked people into their platform, things like that. They get some pretty hefty, hefty fees when you extract it out, even though it's only 3% from the host. They jack on, another, 12, 15% from the traveler. But again, it's that total price that you look at and go, that's good value. Here's something that I couldn't use before. So my argument is I'm bullish on OYO. Will it replace Marriott and Hilton? No. But all of a sudden, here's the hotel industry now facing another front of the battle between, okay, we've got all these people that are individually home-owned, and certainly OYO is, I'm sure Airbnb is looking at them going, this could get tricky. But you wind up looking at that and you go, wait a second, you now have home sharing, you now have vacation rental, you now have OYO. All those are slicing back a chunk of the pie that normally went kind of only to the hotel groups, and that's not a great situation to be in. I mean, that's people creating new new business models and new value propositions is a good thing for the industry. So yeah, that's anyway.
But now, just to keep down, be able to hit down your list, and we're doing pretty good with this. Do you want to hit the intermediary and distribution category where we talked? You had put in the article, Expedia struggles to move beyond its U.S. independence, which ties to the. I mean, you put a lot of Expedia articles in this category, but Expedia's fourth quarter earnings and investor presentation, kind of all together.
Well, and I did that because I thought it was actually a little bit odd, but I don't know what Expedia did to Skift, but. Yeah, that was a really, really negative article.
Yeah,
and I don't think Expedia. Well, actually, let me look at their share price. I don't think they took a hit, did they?
Skift's not that powerful.
Expedia is up previous close was at 128, right? They opened at 135. So they've got a 7-point jump on that, which is probably about a 5% hit. Now it came back to 130. They're up 2.4%.
Yeah, it's not that powerful.
The street liked it, and Sean, I know Sean, and Sean normally writes things pretty well, but the slant on this, I just don't understand, because they basically said, their growth rate was only 11% and things like that. And they aren't and certainly Expedia has some problems. Their share of business, the share of business they get from the US is growing instead of shrinking, right? That's not good in terms of competition against Booking and, in terms of their kind of global dominance. But it's a pretty damn profitable, profitable market for it. They're churning out their 32 or 33 cent, dividend. They're doing just fine. And I mean, when you look at down their investor presentations, they did pretty well. Now they're arguing they're the largest diversified travel brand and things like that. You can start with that, but they have some slides on their rapidly expanding supply of core lodging properties, home away integrated listings, and things like that. Overall, their supply is up 45%. Now, a chunk of that is home away, right? But when you look at the hotel stuff, they are growing. Boy, they added about 10% of core lodging properties, right? So they have over 1 million properties, and again, that's kind of a little bit of a weird count. Their rewards program, they have 43 million Hotels.com rewards members. They've got 30 million Expedia rewards members and 9 million Orbitz rewards members, right? So now there's probably some overlap there, but that's a lot of people. And they're, you know, they're driving a lot of you know, their room nights, their compound annual growth rate since 2014 is 24%. And maybe that's what Skift was coming out on, is saying, hey, it was only 11 or 12, you know, this particular year. But again, you know, it's off of a very, very large base, and those numbers aren't necessarily something you'd say, oh, they suck. Yes, they are not growing as fast as they used to, and they are not, you know, growing internationally as fast as they would certainly want to. But for the full year, their room night growth was 13%. That's a lot. It now is 16% the year before, so they dropped 360 basis points, right? But you know, you start looking at year over year, gross bookings up 13%, revenue up 13%, operating income up 14%, EBITDA up 15%, and you kind of go, that's not bad. Is it moonshot type stuff? This is a good, mature, churning business, and Expedia does have a problem. Their growth was always built on acquiring distribution, right? They would go out buying Orbitz, buying Travelocity, all the stuff they've acquired in the past. There aren't big other travel, you know, groups out there available to buy at this point, right?
They can afford to buy.
And what's dragging them down is basically Trivago, because they own more than half of Trivago, which is publicly traded, and those headwinds are not playing nicely on Expedia's, P&L.
I think people are beginning to figure out that Trivago is a double stack, double dip. It's just showing you the same stuff everybody else is showing you. There's no real, other than UI experience, there's not really much different about Trivago than anything to be found.
In the meta search space, I mean, Skyscanner's doing some interesting stuff.
And they're good. I like
Kayak's doing some interesting stuff. Even you know, much maligned TripAdvisor is trying and changing again, doing interesting stuff, right?
Earlier when C-Trip picked up to Skyscanner, we were wondering what was going to happen with that. Whether was that C-Trip's intro into the outside China market, or was that a model for Skyscanner to step into the China market? And right now, for all intents and purposes, C-Trip has left it alone. They haven't really done much in the sense of changing its profile of discovery. So, I mean, it's here to say, but I think, and in lots of ways, when you look at Expedia just from a very high altitude, just generalizations, and I'm not basing this on anything other than just perspective, is in the U.S. you have a set quantity of independent hotels that are not a dominant voice; they're a minor voice. Mm-hmm. You have fewer people negotiating with the Expedia entity because of the mergers and acquisitions that have been going on. So there's more control relationships that are existing there. And when you compare it to the international market, you had other places like Booking.com and so forth that have established themselves well in markets. So they're an even competitor in those market spaces, sometimes a superior competitor in those market spaces. And you are the underdog or the newbie to that. And, you know, you're not offering a value proposition too dissimilar from them. So there's been no, you know, it's a matter of inches now. It's not a matter of miles. It's a matter of inches in gains and losses between you and them. You know, the trenches are pretty much, you know, the DiMaggio line is there. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you have this environment. So, you know, their European growth, I mean, C-Trip is C-Trip. You're never going to crack China unless you're in China cracking out.
Well, and the things they're doing, I included the McKinsey article on C-Trip, which is brilliant. I mean, Jane Sun, who's their CEO, is just, they understand this. They have an acronym, ABCD, right, which kind of drives the company. Artificial intelligence is the A, big data is the B, the C is cloud computing, and the D is data mining. This is a data-driven organization, right? And a tech-driven organization. Every day they have 300 million registered users generating 50 terabytes of data, right? And they're trying to figure this out. So the example they gave, oh, I didn't have to mention Four Seasons earlier. I could have done it now. There in the McKinsey article, if they decided to stay at Four Seasons hotels, for example, we'll calculate distance between the airport and the hotel and push a limousine service. When they check in, we'll say, oh, there's a Michelin Guide restaurant. We already made a reservation for you. Or there's a shopping excursion. Would you like to try it? Can we arrange a private tour of the British Museum? Would you like that? That's pretty damn good. That is where the hospitality industry is headed, and it's going to be very interesting to see, does Ctrip win that? The airlines with their NDC, their new distribution capability, are going to try to get there to own the customer, or will the hotel, which should be the base of operations when the individual staying there, the hotel should be the one who's able to do all this stuff. Right?
Can you post that link up? I'm struggling to look for it. Where is it?
The McKinsey link. It was number 7. How China's largest online travel agency connects with the world. Yeah. Really, really forward-looking approach. And again, Skyscanner's they're making changes. Yes, they're meta search, but they understand that crappy, just like TripAdvisor figured out, crappy experiences on the actual travel suppliers' websites or mobile apps kill them. So they have, now Ctrip has always been a little bit more air focused, and almost like Google, right? When Google went and bought ITA software, for Google Flights and things like that. And now hotels are now kind of filling in. They have, I think, probably 50 airlines who you can now book on the Ctrip platform, right? Through their kind of original meta search, you can now transact the payment, the purchase on their platform, which is fantastic. And again, my daughter is studying this semester in Florence, Italy, right? She wants to go to Poland to go look. She wants to go visit Auschwitz and things like that, right? Really interesting things, something that she's always wanted to do. She's looking, she goes, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. It's 180 euros, round trip. And I'm going, where are you shopping? And she's like, oh, I looked at, whatever websites and, kind of general, more, North American style. I don't know if it was Google Flights or wherever. I said, no. Did you try Skyscanner? She tried it, 65 euros round trip, but she has to go to Pisa or Bologna, which is a quick 1-hour train ride. And it's like, well, that could be easy to do. So why wouldn't I do that, right? And that's the power of these open platforms, and that's exactly what Ctrip is trying to do strategically. I mean, Skyscanner fits in perfect. Everybody can participate. Here's how you got to get your product on the platform, and the numbers work for groups like Ryanair, who used to be super low cost, super dishonest in terms of dealing with travelers. All of a sudden, they got onto this platform where they can sell their product properly and not get gouged by doing it. That's the future of travel distribution, I think.
I don't want to try to time with some of the ones you picked up in some of the articles and we're getting close to, but I want to throw this one up because it's like a trifecta of people we know. Because I don't understand the header versus the context of the article. First off, let's be fair. I love Dan Waxman. Dan Waxman's been on the show with us more than once. Paulo Torchio, who's not been on the show, I still like him, even though he's an arrogant guy that doesn't believe.
Well, no, we hate Paulo because he hasn't been on the show. Yeah, I mean, if he was on the show,
not being on the show. But anyway, so the article, the title of it says "Channel Mix isn't," and now this is also Nature's May event, the CMO roundtable, right?
Or was it CMO or CDO? One of them.
I think it was CMO, but I'll look at it real quick. Okay. The channel mix isn't just direct versus OTA. Was the headliner of the article on Hotel News Now.
Yeah.
But you read the article, and all they do is talk about the polarity of direct versus OTA.
Right.
Now, they talk about the mix of engagement with OTA, and I think there's some great points in the article as to the approach to OTA usages, how it's perceived in market. I think those are all kind of statements of fact. But at the end of it, what's the other stuff that isn't just OTA and direct?
Right. Well, yeah, and I think they also counted a little bit of the reducing reliance on wholesale and things like that. But again, a lot of the wholesale model are groups like Expedia, vertically integrated retail and wholesale into their business model. So, yeah, I don't know. There's actually an article that I did not post, which was by Focusrite, and I am a Focusrite analyst. But somebody did an analysis which was basically touting how great these direct booking campaigns are working to drive share. And it's like, no, that's the wrong analysis. And I got to go talk to some people, quite frankly, about it, because that's a bad analysis. Because what's happening is it's the offline shift to online. They're lose the share of offline, which would go direct to hotel, walk-in, telephone, call center, all that sort of stuff. Group that is getting reduced, and it's now going online, which is good, right? You want it to be automated, and that's sort of fantastic. Except when you combine the online direct to hotel channels and what was direct offline, that share is reducing, and intermediary or OTA growth is increasing. That's not good, right? So there's the perception of, hey, hotel online, channels are growing. They absolutely are. That's a good thing. They're growing, a little bit faster than OTA. Well, that's okay, but then you can't just ignore that big pool of offline stuff. That's in most cases more than what's going online, right? So, that's careful with analyzing just the top level results and not peeling back the onion. So.
Right. Under your tech and fitness categorization, and for everyone, all these links that we get the chance to discuss, and a lot that Robert has gone through the effort of putting together a list that we don't get to, because always, as you can see, Robert tends to go down rabbit holes. I tend to go down black holes. We'll spend time on variations to these conversations, which is the joy of our therapy that we consider this show to be.
Exactly.
But there's tremendous of these. These will all be in the show notes for this at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. Show number 183 is the link you want to hit to. The one I want to not miss also, because it also hits dear and near to some of our friends like
Pegs and Travel Tripper.
Yeah, you knew what I was going to do, because that's some friends for ours. I find it very interesting that they're doing that, and our friend, of course, is Darlene Rondeau. She's over there.
And Gautam Lalla, who's the head of Travel Tripper. And I think, and this is backed by Excel and KKR, and KKR has some money in hotels. Just, with KSL, just look at some of who's backing some of these groups like Outrigger and a variety of resort properties and Apple Leisure Group and things like that. That's all KKR, KSL stuff, back in the wherever those private equity money.
They're quite diversified in their ownerships too, and quite diverse in their locations and products and so forth. They have quite an interesting gathering of resources.
Absolutely.
And now they have a direct pipe to a really good platform.
Oh, yeah. And Travel Tripper got the Caesars deal, which was a huge coup for them, being a relatively small company. But they have some terrific functionality. And again, I always call them out on this. It's fantastic. Some of these things like trip teas and stuff like that. Yes, it's certainly pitched. Hey, show people competitive pricing on your website and show that you're lower or something like that. And then some of them take that and go, ooh, if we aren't lower, don't show it, and things like that. No, Travel Tripper blasted through all that and said, if you're finding lower prices, send a notification out to let somebody know what's somebody doing monkeying around with the pricing that maybe they shouldn't be promoting, and B, match the price. If you have a best price guarantee and someone is lower, then match it dynamically, get the sale, and move on with your lives. Make it easier for the consumer. Don't send them through if you email this to us and we need screenshots, and that's too late or too early. Forget all that stuff. Just make it happen, get the booking, go. And that's what Travel Tripper does, and they've been very smart. I think they're the white label platform for what Tambourine uses for all their clients. I mean, it's a good, solid, not the most feature rich, not every bell and whistle, but a good, strong, central reservation platform. Speaking of
tech,
and something that Pegasus really needed, because of their old ResView platform, things like that, which were built by the Anasazi folks, or actually some of it was acquired too. Way back in the 90s and 2000s. They definitely needed this as well. So it's a great combination.
So one strategy that I'm employing with some of my clients that we're beginning to get just the beginnings of is we're putting a best rate guarantee for pre-purchase non-refundables with teeth in it, very similar to what you just said, where it's like, look, for those who are making the travel plans, the best rate we're going to have is the pre-purchase non-refundable, 4 weeks plus out purchase. That's going to be our best rate. That's usually baseline for most revenue strategists and so forth. And because of that, we're making a guarantee to people that are willing to do this to say, look, if you buy this, we will guarantee you, and we will monitor that should, at the time of your arrival, we have a lower rate available than the one that you paid, we're going to give you the difference. Period.
Right. And do well by the consumer. I mean, it's
don't have to worry
about it.
Golden
rule, treat others the way you would like to be treated, because this stuff, it's complicated. It's dynamic. There's nothing people hate more than thinking they've been cheated because they paid more than they had to. I mean, that's just,
and don't make it their responsibility where they have to go dig and find and research, because what's going to happen is they're going to end up finding it. They're going to resent you for not telling them. They may still keep the reservation with you because at that point they need to keep the reservation, or they might, through their discovery, find that there was better choices, because guess what? In our revenue marketing strategy world, people drop their rates pants at the last minute because that's the things that they've been trained to do, and our consumers are trained to look for it. And so next, all of a sudden, you lost somebody because, one, you didn't keep your promise with them about best rate guarantee. That's right. Two, you didn't let them know. And three, they found someplace better and cheaper. And screw you.
Or your best rate guarantee conditions were artificially structured, and the context was so narrow that it doesn't reflect the real world at that exact point in time. If you didn't do it, it's like, well, good, let's go recreate that. And it's like, no, and all those were kind of set up to make it so people couldn't complain about it, right? And they would fail, and you wouldn't have to pay them anything. It's like, no, just be an upright, good business person who if you have a well organized and well orchestrated pricing strategy, this shouldn't be a problem. It should be factored into it, saying, yeah, if we're going to do crazy things, guess what? There's some pain involved because we're basically cheating some of these people. So yeah, give them the best rate. And
you should be rewarded for your early decision, and those who weren't should be considering the fact that they waited too long for the rates that you were able to take advantage of.
Prepay and save. Things like that. You're loyal to us, we'll be loyal to you. Right. Boy, it's a two-way street in terms of, I mean, everybody talks about loyalty. Loyalty is earned, right? Yep. It's a two-way, it's a relationship. And if you win, they lose, what they don't know won't hurt them. That's not a good way to get into a relationship. So. Right.
The other thing that we're doing, too, in combination with that, is that you look at cancellation rates, and everyone complains about their cancellation rates per channel and overall. And in some markets like New York, you can be up to 80% and so forth. So we're looking, and I think I mentioned this on the last show, too, is that we're looking at what the cancellation average cycle is of how many days after booking or how many days prior to arrival, the sweet spot where people tend to make a final decision where they're going to stay and cancel the remainder of their reservations. And we're offering a generic, what we're calling gosh, my mind just went blank, but basically the appreciation pre-arrival, which just says we're looking forward to your stay, which is most pre-arrivals say, and we have a small gift as a thank you for making your booking reservations that you can pick up at the front desk. And where it's not a discerned present, we don't say it's just a bottle of water or just a cup of coffee or whatever.
It's an autographed picture of Lauren Gray, and
I have been making a lot of publications recently.
The bearskin rug with the boa constrictor.
With the fireplace, yeah, pretty much. But anyway, besides from that horrible picture that you will never get out of your mind now that you try to put together, the idea is that to differentiate yourself, our hope is to differentiate ourselves from all the other reservations that you're making choices between, and not to cancel us thinking that we, one, are thankful that you're going to stay with us. Two, we want to acknowledge the fact that you have a choice that still can be made about not staying with us. So we'd like to give you a little something, and not to cheese it out that it's just a bottle of water. I'm just making that as an excuse of it, but something that just nicely says we appreciate that you decided and then confirmed that you're going to continue the idea that you're going to stay with us, and we'll give you that reward when you get to that. To hoping that we can, even if we get 10% of our cancellation percentages back, that's money reacquired that we already spent either acquiring them as a new guest,
right,
or in affirmations with life.
And because there are, and in some cases it's tricky, because the guest is sitting there and they're looking at property A, and they may love that property. They go, this is a great property and I want to continue staying at this place. But then all of a sudden a competitor offers a crazy rate that's a superior property at a lower price, and they look at it and they go, that's too good to avoid. Right? And those sorts of scenarios are very, very difficult to
and think about this,
but if you do have them locked in from, well in advance, and it's non-cancelable, non-refundable, something like that, yes. And if you have a best rate guarantee on that, saying if the price goes lower, that's what you will have. You will get the lowest price. That is a good thing, where they go, you know what? Nobody's paying more than I am for this room. That if you can look them in the eye, most of them are fine with that, because they go, I made the decision, I lived with it, they're living with it, everything's good. And quite honestly, that's where corporate business is and should be going, where everybody's talking about, ooh, dynamic pricing, they can move around and we can jack up prices and go down and forget these fixed corporate rates. It's like, that's absolutely fine, but boy, you better have the best rate guarantee in here, because you start messing with these corporate travel managers and trying to play games with them, there will be pain felt.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice.
Yeah, and they should, and you should be able to come in and say, nobody's paying more than this. You're our number one customer. Nobody's getting a better price than you. I did
that backwards. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So, hey, we're at around a time-ish. Don't want to miss the rut row-ish.
The rut row. There were a few rut rows this year. I noticed that you skirted the really controversial one, which normally we have Tim Peter to handle all the political.
Yes, he's
here, because we know he loves to go out, stick his neck out on controversial political issues and to create controversy. The one rut row, it was going to be that Amnesty International is now urging the world's leading digital tourism companies to end listing in the Israeli settlements in the West Bank. That is from the Washington Post. That is a political hot topic. I mean, that starts getting to
it's very deep waters. Of when the tuna had to be free caught hooked instead of netted, and that whole sentiment of sustainable product loyalty and things like this, environmentally friendly businesses, that retail wave is now going to potentially, this is the tip of that wave, where support businesses that are morally and culturally responsible, and ignore those who are in deference to that and revenue specifically only driven.
A quick aside. What's interesting on the sustainability side, I spoke at it was a government travel meeting. This was years and years ago, during the Obama administration, and Obama had some policies where they wanted to be green, right, and support green operations, green businesses, things like that. And one of the topics was certainly booking green hotels, sustainable hotels. And I got up there, I didn't make a lot of friends, and said, great, so what kind of premium are you willing to pay to that hotel group or that particular property to make sure it's green? And they went, what? No, we want a lower price. I go, whoa. What's your priority? Do you want this to be green, or do you want the lower price? Everything else that I see that's organic or green or whatever actually has a price premium, right? Because it's the right thing to do, and people are willing to pay a premium because they love that you're doing the right thing, and you should be rewarded. And you might be spending more money to make this happen, because you got to get solar panels or do things with your water or whatever. And they're just like, no, we don't want to do it. And it's like, you've got a problem. This is not going to work, because you aren't willing to back the policy that you were just touting 30 seconds ago. Right.
Yeah.
So if you aren't going to put your money where your mouth, how important is this? I'm willing to pay a premium for it, which is the same argument as loyalty.
No, it's the same thing.
How loyal are you? I will pay a premium.
Remember the pay back your carbon footprint platforms that just burgeon everywhere where, I made a flight, but I can go pay back my carbon footprint by giving, and then they found out most of those carbon footprint places are just taking your money. Yeah. It's like, that's great. I paid twice for my ticket.
We're going to go plant a tree, and it's like, how much energy and carbon are you producing planting the tree by driving up the hill, and how long is it going to take to start producing the? That's a full-grown tree, not a sapling. Yeah, there were some issues there.
Yeah. Okay, so iPhone.
But the real ruh-roh. Well, let's talk about loyalty and people's love for Apple and for iPhones. And isn't this great? Well, it seems that a particular tech group had some really cool technology. I think it was called Greenbox, and you could go in and actually watch the screen of your users, and that included things like credit card screens and things like that, or Glassbox. Glassbox was the name, and groups like Expedia and Hotels.com were capturing and sending the session replay data back to a server on their own domain. And the data, it was mostly obfuscated, but did see in some cases email addresses and postal codes, right? So this is not good. Tech providers on these apps should not be taking pictures of your screen and doing things and then sending the information back to their servers. And Apple wasn't aware of this. They became aware of it, and now they've outlawed it in the App Store. So people are going to have to be pulling this stuff out. But again, I think it's a cautionary tale of, you may have a very innocent, and I don't know, I'm not saying Expedia and Hotels.com were evil and doing nefarious things, spying on people and stuff, but these tech platforms are complicated. You may have the most earnest and worthwhile, objective to use this, but if the behavior can be used for evil, watch out.
I'm going to quote the Bud Light commercial.
Okay.
The Blue Knight walks up to the guys and the girls shooting arrows into the village, and he says, "What are you doing?" "The king told us to make sure the ingredients are known in our beer to everybody." "Did he tell you to shoot it and arrows randomly into the village?" "He didn't tell us not to."
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's the sort of thing. It's like, here's an objective, and it's the whole impact matrix, right? Of, you make a change, you have a particular strategy, what are the unintended consequences of these things, right? If you aren't kind of thorough with it, in some cases, I mean, the ethics, the whole technology, the ethics of technology, right? The more you get into AI and the algorithms and things like that taking over, those are going to become larger and larger questions, because this is obviously an unintended consequence. Expedia is probably using that for some good reason, trying to get some sort of data signal of what's going on, so they can start, I don't know, maybe they're trying to figure out, they're putting their credit card numbers.
The Belichick video camera. Basically, you didn't tell me I couldn't, so I'm going to do what I can until you tell me I have to stop.
Well, yeah, and they start going, hey, you know what? They weren't just in the shopping cart. They entered and I'm not saying this is purely made up. They entered their whole credit card number, and when they asked for the CVV2 code or whatever, that's when they stopped. My God, and that might be something that they were, and again, just completely hypothetically made up, have not talked to the Expedia folks about this at all, but maybe they were doing that to figure out how do they make that sales process and the settlement process faster.
It might be intended for good, but we all know that data uncorrelated now can become correlated later. Just because it rained and then I did something, I may not consider there's a relationship to it, but then with enough data and enough experience, enough people giving the data, then all of a sudden a very smart AI can say, wait a minute, when it gets this temperature and rains this much with this much humidity, these people buy blue clothes. Let's sell blue clothes during that time.
That's right. And that may be a very good thing. Well, that's exactly, it got cold, so I wore blue.
Right. So, but I call it the genie question principle. I was one of those geeks that played Dungeons and Dragons when I was in college.
Ah.
And every once in a while, you'd have them, they find the genie, and so they would have to craft a question of what they were wishing from the genie. And if you, and of course, as the dungeon master, I was trying to find whatever way I could abuse that. Like, okay,
yeah,
you wish
the question better, yeah. The whole genie problem. Be careful what you wish for.
Exactly. So the idea of it is like, if you're going to do this, if you're going to create a platform of usability, you got to frame it in its construct in such a way that. And it will be found. Water will find the crack that will leak, that will break it. Okay, that you will find that one thing that wasn't attributed to or accounted for, and that will be the fissure that gets created that breaks the whole thing open. And
I want $1 billion in gold. Uh-oh, the bricks have dropped onto you.
Right. Okay, you got it.
Yep, so, you got it.
I call that the genie question. It's like, if you phrase a question so absolute that there is no variability to how you ask it, that you can not get exactly what you asked for in a way that's not harmful, but in the way that you would envisioned it.
Is there a 500-word limit, or is there a time limit?
Right. Yeah. Can I write a long contextual? All right. And you've obviously read what I write. So
with this rut row, I mean, this stuff happens. So you try to do things for good, and maybe you get spanked. Spanked for. And again, who really knows? Now, does this really negatively impact Expedia and Hotels.com? Probably not. I don't know. I think it'll kind of pass. But boy, if there's another outage or something happens, this is going to get popped up and go, hey, you know what? Here now we have a pattern, right? And then that's that.
I told you about when I was a food and beverage director at a hotel in Houston. A new hotel was built right behind us, right beside us, but our loading docks were facing each other. And of course, being the new kid on the block, we lost a lot of food and beverage group business and event business to them because they were the new kids. They're right across the street, so it wasn't a real change for people. And so, as I'm out back, and my team was out there.
Were you throwing tacks into their loading dock?
No. I was doing much more. I was much more friendlier than that. As I'm out there with my team, because back in the day when a lot more people smoked, they were out there smoking after we did an event or something like this. And I noticed that they were dumping lots of paper into their bin.
Dumpster diving.
I walked over and noticed those were BEOs, banquet event orders, and I could see, of course, I had the full detail as to the contact and the prices and the menu and the the room configurations and so forth. And of course, obviously, I would take them because business is business, and I would go and call Mrs. Smith that recently had their social at the competitor hotel that bought chicken for $11.95 a plate and had 40 people arrive, and said, Mrs. Smith, this is the XYZ hotel. Jason, the next to the hotel you were just at, and I would love to go over and offer you, and of course my price would be better than what she just paid for whenever the next event would be. And so I was doing that for a while. We were getting some great success. We were recapturing some of our lost business and gaining some new stuff until my GM called me and says, Lauren,
that's competitive business intelligence. Yes.
That's exactly how I saw it. It's like, I get the call from a GM saying,
were you trespassing when you were doing this?
And taking paperwork out of their dumpster? I'm like, not anymore, I guess.
Are you
yeah, I mean, all's fair. I mean, in that sense, it's like, hey,
he never told you could not do that.
That's what I said.
Do not crawl into the competitor's dumpster.
That's why I quoted the Bud Light commercial.
Hey,
did he tell you to do that? He didn't tell me I didn't do it.
You know what? My first job again. I'm gonna use. I have 2 Four Seasons stories. This is way back.
This is the third one. This is the third one.
I know. Third. It's gonna be third and fourth. Ed's not here, so I can do it. My first job, I had to do competitive reader boards, right? This was in 1981. I'm the grunt level salesperson. And you had hotels in Dallas. We're opening this brand new 400-room luxury hotel. There's only one 5-star hotel in all of Texas, which was the Fairmont. And you've got things like the Anatole, which at the time was a Lowe's. I would run around to all these hotels and write down, and I didn't have to do it every day. They were nice enough where I had it like a couple days, but we basically had it down where somebody was doing it every day. We knew every group that went into the hotels, how long they were there. Now, we didn't know the meeting plan. We didn't have the banquet event orders and things like that, but we could see how extensive it was, what rooms they were in, all that sort of stuff. We didn't have iPhones and things like that where you could just take a picture of it, which would be
you had to write.
You had to write it down
before you get caught.
The amount of information, and then for the annual, it's the annual Texas Teachers Association meeting. We knew let's go. Do we know when it is? We know where it is. Let's see how we get into that business. It was amazing, but the best competitive intelligence was in New York City, right? So somebody runs into the office and they've got a stack of green bar paper, literally like 6 or 7 inches thick, right? It's in like a little cardboard thing, and they drop it on my desk. I'm the marketing analyst for the New York National Sales Office. They drop it on my desk. Get a load of this. I'm like, what the hell is that? They go, that is the Fairmont database of every group that's ever been booked into the 4 or 5 Fairmont hotel, which were large convention properties and things like. We did a lot of board of directors meeting, all great. It's like, oh wow. So I immediately pick up the phone, call Michelle Weaver, who ran our Los Angeles sales office, and go, hey Michelle, I think I got something for you. And she's like, what do you have? I go, I've got the whole Fairmont. Go, hang on. I got to put you on hold. It's like, okay, sorry. Wait a minute or two. She goes, yeah, well, how old is this stuff? I go, oh, this was like December, right? It's from the first quarter, right? She goes, we already got the second quarter. I guess we should have told you. You want a copy? So they would take this whole history, and there was no control over it. They produced it for all of their national salespeople or whatever. I don't know how many copies they had, 1 per office, a couple per office. And when they got rid of them, I don't know. They didn't know. Obviously, they didn't know where they were going. Let me tell you, it had meeting planner names, phone numbers, addresses, dates, original block sizes, pickups, everything for every event at every hotel, for the history, right? And you can just go, oh, there's their whole pattern of events on one page.
So to go back to olden days, where we had a big book with pencil and erasers and ink as to who was booking for when and what. Anytime you were to go over and let go any of your sales team, the first thing you did was go in and take the Rolodex out of their room, and to ensure that there was no methodology of them to walk out. Any salesperson worth their salt always duped their information. Always. I know.
Oh my God.
Because that was their calling card to the next ticket ride. Was, who do you know? How do you know them? Can you bring them with you? And, those kind of questions. So,
and how did we open the hotel in Dallas so successfully? We hired Mike Stagel, who later became VP of sales for Intercontinental Hotels Group. Great guy, consummate salesperson. This guy could sell anything to overcome any objection. Unbelievable salesperson. But he was the guy who was the director of sales at that 5-star hotel, the only 5-star hotel in the state. He knew everybody. We brought him on board. It was great. He brought all those people who, was he stealing business from Fairmont? Maybe, but these guys loved and trusted Michael, right? They knew that they were going to have great events because he was going to personally make sure these things were going to go flawlessly, which is exactly the kind of person we wanted to have on the staff. And we got the benefit of it, which is fantastic. So in that case, that's, the acqui-hire sort of thing. Right. So you get the technology. In that case, you get the relationships and go. But again, that's technology. Boy, your back doors. Can somebody go dump your whole national sales database down onto a thumb drive and just walk out the door with it with all your history? And that's important. That is important.
There is now.
Property,
if you think about how sophisticated it can be. We'll take Ed's example of showing the security of a hotel by throwing a bunch of thumb drives in the parking lot and see which one gets jacked into your back of the house, right?
Exactly.
You can create, and it doesn't take a rocket science to do this. It takes just a motivated person to do this. They can create a script that will immediately load up into the computer, so it no longer stays on the thumb drive. In the computer, we'll go over and seek out what your communication capabilities are, and then monitoring how those communications get initiated and monitor those so they can duplicate them. At which time, if you know what PMS or POS systems are working with, knows how to go to the platform, look for the data, put that into a separate file named nomenclature so that you wouldn't find it, just it would be buried somewhere that would be addressable. Once it determines how to communicate out through your system, we'll take that file and load it to the predetermined location. And you'll never know.
And with the Internet of Things, all those system connectivity things that are like, oh, this is all tied into the PMS for whatever, watch out. Because again, my favorite was MGM Hotels Resorts, who have a pretty sophisticated technical operation running casinos and things like that. They got hacked through their fish tank. Because the fish tank was on a timer that had the internet, which I think monitored water levels or pH or salinity. I don't know what it was monitoring, but it was hooked up to, some routers that were hooked up to servers that were hooked up to the outside internet. And again, it was a very innocent sort of, we're just trying to have healthy fish in the fish tank. And how did they do that is a really, well, that is the big question with anybody hacking. How the heck did they do that? But again, Target had that huge data breach. How did they get in? No, they didn't attack Target's central systems, which, it was like trying to get into Fort Knox. They went through some sort of maintenance routine on the point of sale system at every single cash register on their platform or something like that. You go, wait a second, that was the individual like hardware unit. Yeah, that's how they got in. And you go, because that was a convenience item. It was a trade-off, security versus convenience. The same issue on people's passwords and all the privacy stuff. Let's make it easy for them. They only need a 4-number PIN number to get into their stuff instead of one. And I don't care if it's their birth date or their birth year. It doesn't really, let's make it easy, lower security, right? And so with the Internet of Things, watch out, because it could be your thermostat, your Roomba, your, I don't know, whatever. Whatever thing can be turned into something that suddenly starts attacking you. That's not a good situation. So,
all right, hey, well, we are at 1:20 my time, 12:20 yours.
Wait,
as always,
it's only 12:20 here. We got a whole nother hour then, Lauren.
Gee, how we can fill 2 hours in the blink of an eye. Robert, thank you again, as always. That was a really excellent list of articles.
I apologize for going onto my soapbox, but that's the total rate thing has to get fixed. You fix that, I think more people stay in hotels. They understand the process better. They don't have to go through hell, right? It's like stop. I think Rafat Ali from Skift put it best. He termed it hate selling, right? Stop that. Stop those behaviors. Stop abusing.
Stop the adversarial relation. Here on one hand, we bitch about the fact that OTAs have such a strong footing with our guests and they're intermediaries between us and our guests, but we propagate that by the very methods that we approach our guests with this hidden rate mentality and this, it's a mandatory fee and, but book direct with us. And we'll treat you differently. No, we don't.
Direct, and when you book direct, we won't show you what the reviews are of the hotel, of each of the hotels, because the owners don't like that, because we don't want to know that we've got some crappy properties out there. Right. It's like, you know what? Put them at the bottom of the list. Let people sort by that, and guess what? They'll start improving. Or if they aren't improving, get them the hell out of your platform or your branding. I mean, expose that stuff, and let me tell you, the numbers of things where I've just, and it is somewhat shaming, and it's kind of cruel. The 1 to N list, the best one, worker compensation, right, is frequency and severity. That's the best way to look at it. And again, at a hotel company that won't go mentioned again, this was back in the mid-'80s, the corporate office, they're trying to figure out how to reduce this. I said, produce a list. All the hotel general manager names by property of who has the best at the top and the worst at the bottom for frequency of workers' compensation claims and then severity. 2 different lists, right? Those are the KPIs you're trying to do. Guess what? There was no general manager at the bottom of both lists ever 2 months in a row. Never. They made sure all of a sudden, I do not. And there was always somebody's name at the bottom, which is a little cruel, right? Yeah. But all of a sudden, everybody started paying attention to it. They didn't want to do it. It became important. And what's important? You don't want workers getting hurt.
Right.
Sort of right. That's a good outcome. So Yeah,
Nope.
I mean, you start doing like that, and again, yeah, you just shake your head with the hotel groups who go, I don't know why you would want to hide that. Be straight up, and right, you've got a crappy property there. People will start avoiding it. Move up those, move up those ratings, right? So.
All right, Mr. Robert. So people want to know more about you and Rock Cheetah. Where is it that they can go, sir?
They can go, well, aside from timpeter.com, where you should go for
which are all things. Although he's incarcerated now, so he might not be able to update his data anymore.
And this should be a lesson for everyone. I mean, creative marketing tactics between, drug cartels and,
money laundering,
arms dealers, money laundering. No, those are lucrative sectors of the market. But please,
there is a margin. Please. There is a margin, but it's not.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to do that. So.
And for Holly, code changing, so she wins surveys and contests and things because.
Well, I think she was. I believe Holly may have been the person who brought down the Wells Fargo systems and all their ATMs.
She was going around with some sort of ATM interface, and
probably Holly. Probably Holly, I would say.
Yeah. So, I think from the last message I got, which is, hey, you want some free money, use this code at Wells Fargo, might have been an indicator as to what she was working on. Just saying.
Well, poor Ed, I think he's getting older now, so he's probably just lost in that early onset dementia type thing. It's just a very sad sort of thing. And Stuart, I believe it may just be the fans, sort of thing. The groupies sometimes make it difficult to get from his house to the office. His security is a problem.
Robert, I don't think it helped that you put his home address out there for everybody.
The groupies, it's very important to them.
And I appreciate that. I think it says a lot.
They want to meet one of their heroes and.
Yeah.
Share his life.
Yeah.
So what can you say? So
anyway. Well, now that we bashed all of our co-hosts that didn't show up with us today, Mr. Robert, thank you as always for being that reliable source.
And Valen, I think, is out of the country working with the Peace Corps, solving some sort of major.
No! I thought I heard she went with a group band that went into Burning Man that ended up forming a new band that they're off somewhere in Northwest.
She's on tour. Yeah.
Is on tour, with some sort of Rainbow Coalition, something or other. I don't know. There's a mixed bag of what they were trying to do. She's playing the harp now, I think.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Yeah, I could be a liar about it. Small harp.
Right. Oh, okay. It's time to sign off now.
It's time to sign off. Mr. Robert, Rock Cheetah is where?
Rockcheetah.com or Robert K. Cole on social media.
Excellent. And for the well-curated list that Robert did put together that we referenced in our conversations today, and the links that we didn't get to, plus the ones that we did, are located at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. Look for episode or show number 183. That will conclude us. I think I'm going to talk to the guy that flies the drones this week to see if he wants to join us on the show next week.
Oh.
Which is the guy, for those who don't know, we were talking about them. He was at the Digital Marketing Strategy Conference. That you can fly a remote drone from halfway around the world over a resort. These are all luxury resorts to see whether you like to go there. Kind of a neat, novel thing. Be kind of fun. We'll see if he's available for next week.
Is there a gun with it shoots nets, though? As you're a drone guy.
I think there's a new sport coming out of this, but that's another conversation.
There's a potential sport there. I don't know.
Just a reminder to all, because now that I'm involved with the HSMAI EU and HSMAI APAC, and of course for HSMAI North America, coming up February 28th in Las Vegas, I will be speaking there to the Las Vegas chapter and the Nevada Hotel Association, things like that, about making it all work. The 3 pillars: sales, marketing, and revenue management, but in a practical day-to-day sense, the data usage and methodologies that all 3 can work in harmony to generate revenues on a daily basis.
And where can people buy scalp tickets for these? I hear tickets are somewhere in the $2,000 to $3,000 range.
It is pretty expensive. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be pretty hefty to be able to show up in person.
Can they go somewhere like, contact you personally to get a discount on that? Or
I wish I could say, but this is all for the love of the sport. It's going to be at hsmai.org. Look for events. I will put the link in the show notes for being able to register if you're in the market. It's going to be a great 2-hour session because I'll be using, for those who are familiar with the Las Vegas market, is a highly competitive market, and people don't tend to, in open discussion, share their strategies in front of their competitors. So I have thought of a novel way of doing this by using Mentimeter to engage with Q&A and qualify their questions, and then go through the debrief of whether they were right or wrong based on their answers. So they don't, and it'll be anonymous, so they don't have to give up the farm, but they certainly can engage with the conversation. We're going to break it in two parts. We're going to go through methodology, tools, and capabilities, and value proposition. Then we're going to go through case studies and usabilities and see how well they learned the first session. And I have 2 hours of happiness with them. Sound like our live show?
And it's being promoted as an intimate evening of Lauren's greatest hits, of Lauren's greatest hits and anecdotes of just Lauren and his acoustic guitar.
I was going to be my liar.
At the Caesar's Forum. Yep.
Yes. I was going to wear a toga. I was going to do the toga, do a little leer. Yeah. And you're hoping that this turns into a residency, right? Is that the whole thing? Anybody that plays Vegas, baby. I mean, you got to play Vegas.
Maybe 70, 80 days a year, get a house out there. Yep.
Also, too, for the APAC, Asia Pac group with Jackie Douglas out there as well, they have their Bangkok digital marketing or their marketing summit coming up early March. You can see them also. I'll put the link in for that. And EU is coming up. They're going to be doing their, in July, they're doing their marketing conference at that time as well in Palermo. And that's going to be something we'll talk a little more about, which will be kind of fun. Those are two upcoming events for them. Excuse me, in April, not July, April. So there's a lot that's coming up. And we're going to talk more about the internationalness now that they've all asked me to kind of work with them in their marketing strategies and so forth. It's kind of fun to be able to know globally what's going on.
And Lauren, for viewers of this show, at the very, very end, Lauren is covering your airfare and registration for all these events because you heard it here. He will cover it as a customer acquisition.
I already chartered the 380 that's flying there. Just so you know,
great.
The whole 380. Got to fill it up. Sign up now.
That's right.
But there's those, and don't forget, folks, that are coming up. Make plans now. This is when the rooms start filling up. Minneapolis this year. That's where High Tech and Rock is going to be at.
Right. Yep.
In June. This is the time to book. Yeah, make the books now because.
Are you sure? I don't know. Maybe.
What's maybe
so
what?
Is this when you lock in your low, fully cancelable, fully refundable rate?
You would hope that the hoteliers of the world listen to our show well enough to take good advice, but I'm afraid that they might be trying to exploit the idea that they're going to probably hard margin their rates right now. But you know what? For good reason. They should. I mean, this conference, whenever it is in Minneapolis, I know there's been new inventory brought to market in there since the last time High Tech was there, but not enough. I think that would not preclude the fact that rates are probably going to be pretty stiff or decent for the convenience hotels.
Right, to be right downtown. Yeah, that's a pretty compact, and there are a lot of people come in for that. They got 6,000 or 7,000. Yeah,
because when you start talking about the boatload of people that have to maintain booze and so forth, their proximity is key because they got to burn and churn their time cycles pretty tight. Yeah. So those ones get eaten up pretty fast. So if you want something close that's not too far away to get to,
June 17th through 20th. Is High Tech overall, so that's going to be, and I'm just looking.
And then Rock is in the middle of that, and if last year's Rock was an indication, it should be a decent one. Mr. Rob, we'll probably have to get you in there somehow. Can you dress up in a girl's outfit this time?
What? Not on a weekend? Probably. On a weekday? I normally don't, but whatever.
I'll give you the door. That's right. Perhaps we'll get you past the gatekeeper for that. But yes, and then in March, there's the leadership series for the chapters that is going to be in Boulder and in Colorado Springs. There's the Curate program, which is going to be in golly. Where the hell is that going to be? Oh, in Nashville. It's going to be in Nashville. And I would also recommend.
When is that? Wait, in Nashville and when?
Middle of March, somewhere.
Middle of March. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, that's not bad. That's a good time to be there.
And this is not an HSMEI thing, but I constantly miss this because this conference. Not constantly miss this, but the past 2 years I've missed this. There's a phenomenally excellent conference in Nashville in August.
The Hotel Data Conference
is a great conference. if you can make that conference, it's a great conference because
it is because they've changed it back where it isn't like pay to play. I think they still have some sponsored slots, but they went back to what they used to do, which were just straight speakers, which was a good thing because they were starting to get a little off track. So,
yeah, they were getting to where people were talking about stuff out of their butt because they paid to be there.
Right.
And I'm glad they're going back to some stuff. But even still, even with those bad apples, it was still a great conference. It's grown so much, and they still sell out. So if you get the opportunity to make it to it, I highly recommend it. It is a great conference to get caught up now, and this is the time to do it because, like I said, Nashville, there is more inventory, so that's not as great a concern as it is just booking to the conference and going to the conference. And I'll put that link for the booking in there as well because that's a great conference to go to for them. So anyways, and we should do that in the show sometime. We should actually make sure that we refer to some of these things that are coming up that are really good conferences to go hit, that are worth the attention and the interest to do it. I mean, we can obviously talk about Milestones, one that they do. You know, so we should be sure that we refer to those as well. So with that in mind, Mr. Robert, again, thank you for those, again, for the archive of all of this, plus the links we're talking about and links we didn't cover and so forth. HospitalityDigitalMarketing.com/live, live show number 183. Next week, Friday, 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, will be live show number 184, where we might have a guest with us once we get that confirmed about the drones. And until then, thank you, everyone, for your attention and time to today's show. Mr. Robert, have a great day, sir.
Bye-bye.